Amanda, and I'm here with you today for Bring the Zoo to You from Brookfield Zoo. I am a bird keeper, and we're actually in one of our bird exhibits in the perching bird house, or what we call now reptiles and birds. So today, while we have some lovely creatures behind us, we're going to go ahead and talk about inventories and what they mean to us as bird keepers. Here at Brookfield Zoo, we have many different birds and a good number of our buildings here and even on the grounds. Now every day we need to go through and make sure that all the birds that we have here are accounted for, are looking physically fit and well, and to see if they're eating their diet properly and also socializing in the best way possible for that species and the environment that they are in. Now the inventory that we have here for this exhibit goes through the 27 birds that we have listed. Now every day we need to make sure that we see these birds and see what they're up to. Now we have this day marked down, and hopefully by the end of the day I'll have every single bird checked off. Now with this big canopy we have here, a lot of the birds are hiding up there currently, but they may start coming down as we speak. I put some extra treats out for them today. What we do here is we'll set into the exhibit and keep an eye. We'll scan the area to see what birds we see and what motion we might see in the trees or near the food pans. Now today I have some papaya and blueberries over here stationed, so we may have some critters come by to check them out. We have cock-a-the-rock males and females in here, so they may come by to get their favorite treats. Now what I'm looking for is A, if I can see the bird, B, how that bird is standing or positioned, C, where it is at, and what it is doing. So once I see it, I can mark it down on this inventory that the bird has been seen, and then I can also mark if it's physically fit or what's going on with it that day. We want to make sure that we get our eyes on it and know what's going on with that bird to know that from head to toe, everything is okay. Now, while we're doing inventory, there's always different behaviors we can look for and see, just doing a general observation as the day goes. For example, we have Mr. Cleo here, the green-winged macaw. He currently is on the perch, but also on the move because he's looking for his favorite treats over in his diet pan. You see with his locomotion, that is a typical locomotion that we want to see from him. And now, as we're doing our observations, he's going to go in for some treats. As a bird keeper, I want to see which treat he grabbed over the other. In this case, it was a peanut. Now, after he did that, he's going to go for another treat, but he dropped what was left of the peanut shell. And I'm now looking at the Congo peafowl that we have below, and he is doing another behavior. He's doing a foraging behavior. Now that lets me know that, hey, he's interested in food items, and that he's doing a natural behavior which he would do in his natural habitat or in the Congo, and he is moving just right, so I know that physically fit from beak to toes, he's okay today. Over at another food station, we have a cock-a-the-rock female. She goes everywhere. She's a very special bird. We have the female that is nice and brown, and then the male is bright orange with black wings. Watching them, although while I'm doing my inventory, I can officially mark her off on the checklist to know that I've seen her today, and doing a head-to-toe scan, she looks pretty physically fit. Now, one of the behaviors we just saw is she went to the diet pan and went ahead and picked up a piece of papaya. With this bird in particular, we're watching for many different behaviors this week because it is breeding season for the cock-a-the-rocks. Now, in this whole enclosure, I'm also looking to see which species are behaving in such ways that reflect around their social dynamics. This cock-a-the-rock female, she is part of a breeding pair on exhibit. There are actually only 2 on this exhibit, but the other species in here have different groupings. For example, the red Cat Cardinals, which are a red-headed bird with black wings, they're in a flocking dynamic. Now we also have some Venezuela troupials that are yellow and black. They might pop in a little later, and they're actually in a family dynamic. So every day, depending on what social dynamic they're in, it's my job to make sure that everything is running smoothly and that they're acting in a way that best fits them and also their group. Now back to the cock-a-the-rock. In her breeding situation, we're looking for all behaviors as we do inventory. So we noticed that she flew around, she got her piece of fruit, she consumed it, And now she's looking around, trying to see maybe what's around her area for possible nesting materials. We also have other treats around, so being more of the earlier time of the day where extra treats are added and diet is added, she still might be on the move for food. But we'll just wait and see what she does. Now Mr. Cleo is back and forth. You can see he's walking around. He has one of his other favorite treats, which is an orange. If this bird did not go to his favorite treats and did not consume them, he might start making notes as, hey, he didn't enjoy his favorite treats today. I wonder if he's feeling okay. Well, in Cleo's case, he is feeling A-okay and enjoying that orange. Almost like a smile right now.
Now, what if you saw one of the birds limping or something like that?
Yeah.
Something abnormal.
Something abnormal. So what we would do then is we'd continue to observe the animal, document the behavior and mark it down and note it of what category that behavior was in, and then see if it's happened before or if it's happened more recently this week, and continue to watch if it happens. If it is something that's in a dire need, we will then go ahead and proceed to notify our managers, then notify the vet staff of an abnormal behavior. If it's in a situation where we do have a bird that we think we can go ahead and want to get our hands on, for example, if we have a bird with a broken wing, which fairly is uncommon here at the zoo, but not never, we do have an area that's over on the right side. We call it our catch cage or a feeding cage, where we're able to put diet in there. And if a bird does not look so hot, it can go in there to get its diet, and then we can have a special mechanism slowly close the doors so we're able to have that bird in a smaller enclosure so we can do closer observations to see what is the next step of the bird. If we need to continue to observe what those behaviors are, keep a close eye on it, or proceed to medical attention. For the most part, though, Cleo here is very social and active, and we're very lucky that he'll let us know if he's not feeling good that day or if he's really excited. So right now, one of the behaviors he just did, jumping back to the behaviors, is he was cleaning his beak and kind of making sure that it's all in check. He's now going to show off for us and chew on his perch. Being a true macaw, they do like to destroy and chew on things, so all good behaviors, right, Cleo? No.
No comment.
It's all good. Down below, we do have our ducks. We have our blue-winged teal ducks. And one of the behaviors he's doing is preening or flocking his feathers, making sure all the water pools off of him, being a water-resistant plumage. He does have special oils that he needs to rub across his feathers to help him go ahead and not be fully drenched or soaked in when he swims away. So that's another good behavior that we're seeing, a natural behavior. If for some reason that duck did not clean himself, or the duck started to look a little bit more rugged, where he had maybe some fecal or some dirt on his feathers, that's one of those indications that we can note down in the inventory to say, hey, we need to see what's going on with this bird. If he's not feeling good, he's not preening himself, so we need to make sure that he's A-okay.
But Cock of the Rock is a little bit more visible now.
Yes.
The male.
So his job is he's keeping an eye on where that female is. He's observing her behaviors because he's still interested in courting her and giving her a courtship display to go ahead and proceed into the possible breeding situation. Now he's constantly on the move, checking to see where she's at and making sure he has a good playing field. What he will do is he will call and he'll do a certain type of dance on long, straight perches or branches like he is on that palm over there.
How do you determine how many different birds you can have in one space and what species?
That's a really good question. So luckily, Brookfield Zoo has been exhibiting birds for quite a long time. So depending on the species we've had in the past and the species we have now, we take a look at the size of the enclosure. We also take a look at the species itself, what the requirements are, and what type of group social situation they can be in. For example, some birds do best if they are solitary or alone. Some birds do better if they're just with breeding pairs, And if we're going to have a good number of birds together, we may consider going ahead and doing a flocking situation with only single sex. So what that means for our red cap cardinals in here, we go ahead and we have 4 males and only males. The reason behind that is we have found, or people have found in the past, that if you put multiple males and females together in a large flock, there can be some signs of basically aggression or even miscommunication where the males and females become very territorial of their nest sites and chase off the other pairs of red-capped cardinals. In the wild, that is okay because there's open spaces. Here on exhibit, we need to keep in mind that these birds do need larger spaces to defend their natural areas or the spaces that they require for breeding and for nesting. So in this case, we did go ahead and make a small flock of red-capped cardinals, all males, no females. The fun part too is while we have a flock of males in here, we can then tend to have a flock of females in another exhibit.
So who do we have up here in the crown of this tree?
So from what I can see, I see 2 troupials, I see 2 blue-crowned motmots, and then also the tail of the cock of the rock up on that perch as well. I believe that's her, unless that's the trash.
No, that's her.
That's her.
I can see from my angle a little
okay,
better.
Good.
Sorry.
Yeah, and another red cap just flew by. So the 2 yellow ones on top over there, they're special because they actually hatched here on this exhibit this past year. They're part of the family dynamic. The blue-crowned motmots, also with the long tails with the nice little extra loop at the bottom, they too were actually hatched out here on exhibit. Now, being a family group, it's a special situation where the female and the male, the mom and dad troupials, they went ahead and they had 1 chick hatch out on exhibit. They were able to raise it where it learned to fly and fledged out of the nest and grew up here on exhibit. And then while they were caring for it, the female decided to go back and nest again. So she had another second set of chicks, meaning a second clutch of troupials. Now, luckily enough, they all get along at this point in time. What we do once they're a certain age, we can go ahead and get a sample on them to see if it's a male or female. Once you know if it's a male or female, we can kind of go ahead and make plans of where they would best fit in this enclosure or another enclosure. The reason behind, as birds age, sometimes the males and females get interested in each other even though they're brothers and sisters. At this point in time, we have not seen any breeding behaviors from the younger troupials interested in one another or mom and dad, and as a group, we watch to make sure that nobody is picking on one another. At this time, they're doing very well. They all eat well. They have their own spaces they check out. They keep an eye on each other. Being juveniles, they're kind of slowly entering adulthood right now, and mom and dad have showed them the ropes of what to do. Now, the motmots are another case. Typically, they're more on their own. They're not going to be hopping around or flying around together too much, so they are aware of where they're at and will sit in different areas where they can keep an eye on one another. The motmots are cool too because they are actually a burrowing species. So the male and female went ahead and burrowed into our exhibit and had 3 chicks earlier last year and then a second clutch of 3 chicks as well. These chicks fledged and are now juveniles and are entering adulthood too. Now, to make sure that we didn't have any extra chicks because we don't have any extra space for motmot chicks here in this exhibit, we went ahead and we moved the male to another exhibit, so the female, once the chicks were juveniles and doing well on their own, is the only one left with the chicks. Well, I shouldn't say chicks anymore, I'm sorry. Juveniles, almost adults.
How do you tell all the different birds apart? Because you said there's a whole flock of the
Red-capped cardinals?
Red-capped cardinals.
Yeah, so there's 4 of them. One way we tell them apart is we actually have them all with bands. What bands are can be anywhere from metal split bands or kind of bracelets around their ankles to anywhere from different colored bands we can put on their ankles as well. For our penguins, being not flighted birds and they swim, we actually have colored bands around their wings or their flippers. So with our birds here, being flighted birds, they have them around their ankles. A good example would be, let's see here, In the pool, we do have one of our ducks over there. He does have a pink band on his left side, that is a color, and a yellow, I think, as they swim around and move around. On the right side, he has a metal band. The way we determine how to band is based on male and female. These are all males, so the males are going to have a metal band on the right side, and being females, then they would then have a metal band on the left side. With them, since they already have a metal band on their right side, we gave them a color band on their left side. Now we do that with our flocks, and we try to make the colors look quite different so that they're easy and visible to see. However, being on a bird that's only about 4 to 6 inches long, we do have to use our binoculars to get us through to make sure we can identify and see which birds have which colors on them. Now, the metal bands also have individual IDs and numbers that we have in our system, and also I have them all listed on our inventory. So it's quite a list. They're quite small numbers, but we do have the ability to read them when we have those birds in hand when we're doing wellness exams or if they're at the veterinary hospital as well.
So what tips do you have for people who are visiting this is reptiles and birds.
Yeah.
Sorry, reptiles and birds.
Well, for both buildings, actually, I would highly recommend bringing a pair of binoculars. It will enhance your ability to see where the birds are at and also who they are as individuals. So if you come here often, if you see a bird with a red band one day and come back 2 weeks later, if you can find that bird with a red band again, you do have a friend.
Do we name all the birds?
So all the birds have their own identification numbers, but not all birds have names. Some birds do have nicknames, and some birds actually were given names by our lovely donors here at the zoo. All of our penguins are named, most of our peacocks are named, but not all of our passerines or perching birds are named.
How many birds total would you say we have here at the zoo?
Well, that is a very good question. It changes constantly because we do have birds that are hatching and birds that also aren't here anymore. So it's just a mixture. In this exhibit, we'll round it up to 30. In free flight, that's a very good question. The reason why is because we have birds on exhibit and we also have birds behind the scenes. So it changes every day. I'll tell you it changes every day as far as not just because we're having chicks constantly moving or leaving us or what, but we also have birds that go to other zoos and come in from other zoos. So, for example, in the next couple months, I know personally that there could potentially be 3 birds coming in, 3 birds coming out. It just changes up on what the situation is. Oh. And that would be all the snow.
Gosh.
That would be all the snow coming off the roof when it melts with the sun. So,
Oh boy.
I would have to say in the hundreds, but I don't know how many hundreds.
And we also sometimes have birds moving to other buildings.
Yes. So we constantly are making sure that we find the best place for those birds depending on their situation. If we have some juveniles that aren't getting along with the parents anymore, the parents are ready to start another family and the juveniles are teenagers and ready to leave the exhibit, we can move them to different holding areas before we find the proper exhibit for them to be displayed on.
Can you remind us who's down here on the bottom eating up the peanuts that Cleo's dropping?
Yeah, so that is a Congo pea fowl. So what that means is he is one of the species of peacocks that we have in the world, from the Indian common peafowl and also the green peafowl and then the Congo peafowl. He is the smallest of the peafowl species.
Do we just have those 2 species of peafowl here?
Yes, we do. We do not have green peafowl.
And how many Indian peafowls do we currently have?
We currently have 24. So they're doing pretty good. They've gotten lots of extra treats today. They have a whole different flock dynamic too, and we do an inventory on them every day as well. Luckily for us though, their color bands and their metal bands are very much more visible than they would be on a smaller bird. Alright guys, well thank you for coming and hanging out with me over at Reptiles and Birds in the Perching Bird exhibit with our macaw as well. We went over our inventory today and I hope you learned a little bit more about what we do here at the zoo. And thank you for joining us again for Bring the Zoo to You.